and then we can get into like the true comments. Okay, so call the meeting to order. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from our last meeting on November 16th. Does anybody have any corrections to the posted minutes? First does take some good minutes. All right, because we don't have any corrections, we will approve the minutes as is. We don't need a formal vote. So thanks again to Bert for taking such great minutes and also putting together the summary document that we've been sending you on Monday after the meetings. You can share that with our talk to your constituents about that. All right, so we'll move on to administrative reports. Our first administrative report, Chancellor Engel, I'll invite you to.
Two things. One is the provost search, which we are working on. The committee has made a change in that Robert Dooley, who was the chair of that search committee, given the role as interim provost, is not going to chair the committee. Vice Chancellor, Dean of the Graduate School, Joanne Romani, is going to chair the committee. And from the College of Business, I think Bento Lobo is the person that is been put on to represent that. There's at least somebody from every academic college. And with Robert Dooley not being there, I don't think we would have had a representative. So that's moving forward. The last search we ran started March 1, and we were able to get that in during the spring semester before the end of it and have campus interviews. And so I think we're actually doing okay to be able to get the search done. And we will be able to complete this before the end of the semester. And I want to thank Robert, who just came in, for stepping in to be interim provost. One other item I want to deal with. Is there any questions on the provost search? Okay. Is the closure, and I may rely on Vice Chancellor Brown here. We strive to make a call as early as possible that we're not going to be open. But, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it. For yesterday's closure, the email that I got announcing it was 10:09. There was a meeting at 9 p.m. of our risk management people. I had sent out something earlier in the evening to all the vice chancellors and said, I think there's a few options. One, we open on time. Two, we have a delayed opening, either 10 a.m. or noon. Or third, that we're going to close for Wednesday. And if there's anything going on, let us know. Make sure that Dr. Brown knows, because he's going to be on the call with our risk management team, and we can weigh this in to this decision-making process. And I didn't know the roads and where we're at. I didn't know the salt situation, which sometimes on our campus makes a difference. If we can't get parking lots cleared off and have you safely go from your car to your building, we try to make an arrangement so that we get it safe. When we had the ice storm Friday a week ago, I know Yancey Freeman fell outside of Hunter Hall coming in because he told me. So even then, we had a delayed opening till noon, but it was still hard to get everything cleared off for people. So we try to do it as early as possible. We're trying not to tell you at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning that you don't have to come in. Depending upon where you are or what is going on in your life, you may already be up and on your way from a remote location. So we do try to make calls early. But it really is looking at weather reports and all the areas of risk. Dr. Brown, I don't know if you want to offer any additional input here.
Well, I wish the weather was the same, and it's not. These systems are very fluid, they move, and we have a complete assessment team on watching it. We're connected to the National Weather Service, TEMA here at the state, the local police, and bear in mind 7,000 of our students come from surrounding counties. So we have to watch all of those counties and all the roads, taking all of that into account. And then there are scheduled meetings with the National Weather Service that the assessment team are involved with. So we try to err on the side of your safety and student safety every time we make these calls. They're very difficult to make, and we have instructed the team to, as soon as we can get the information, we share it with the chancellor and the executive team, and we pull the trigger. We try to do it before 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. to get in the local news cycle. So that's probably broadcast. So we understand that it's tedious sometimes, but we're trying to make those decisions as quickly as we can with the information that we have on hand. And again, when you're dealing with these snow events and ice events, you're often on the fringes of them. You don't know if they're coming or not. So often we have to err on the side of closing anyway, just trying to keep you safe. But frigid temperatures really controlled our thoughts within the last couple of days. It has been truly cold, and what was on the ground froze in place. It did not thaw really until today. So those are the considerations. I know sometimes that it seems like it's a long time, but we believe we've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning building, trying to make those calls for us.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Engel or Dr. Brown? All right, thank you both. We appreciate it. Next, I'd like to invite our new interim provost, Robert Dooley. Has a couple things to address that he'd like to address.
It's a little intimidating, but anyway, here we are. So, first, again, I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this interim role and help facilitate whatever I can do to move the agenda of the university forward, move the agenda of the faculty senate forward, and so I need your help in working with everybody in the faculty. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the chancellor for giving me this opportunity as well. There were a couple of issues. I sent a letter out to the faculty. I hope that everybody had a chance to read it. But I wanted to address the general ed issue and just kind of give you kind of where we are on the lay of the land. I know it's created a lot of conversation across campus. So as I understand it, there are really two things that we need to deal with as a faculty. The first is SACS accreditation. So I'm not an expert on SACS. Probably some of you in the room are more experts than I am on SACS, actually. But there's a timeline related to SACS in terms of assessing general ed on our report that's due in 2022. Okay, and that's our 10-year report. As some of you may or may not know, going back about 6 years ago, we were really kind of up against the wall with SACS. And we got past that. I don't know what they called it, but we weren't on probation, but they were looking at us to put us on probation. A lot of it dealt with assessment. We got past that. We haven't assessed general ed. So in 2019, we have to be in a position to be collecting data for SACS accreditation for 2022. So we're a little bit under the gun in terms of how we're going to roll out an assessment plan. What's that assessment plan going to look like? So that's the first thing that we have to focus on, is putting that plan in place. I think longer term, the committee that was formed to look at general ed in general, in terms of what is general ed, what is important to the faculty and campus in terms of general ed, how do we elevate the importance of general ed across this campus so that it's a cornerstone of everything we do, because it impacts all of our academic programs. That's a longer term conversation. And how that evolves over time, I think, really becomes part of, it's the faculty's job, you all own the curriculum. So we'll look at that process going forward. But the assessment, we're really under the gun, okay, and trying to get an assessment plan together. I think the approach there is going to be looking at the current general ed learning outcomes, mapping those to some rubrics, and I know that there are some rubrics that exist in terms of the Assembly of State Colleges and Universities, adopting rubrics that they have, and then creating a plan and mapping those rubrics to courses, and then asking faculty to identify, are you addressing these general ed criteria somewhere in your courses, right? So I think if, for example, in my decision-making class that I teach in management, if you ask me if it was general ed, if you ask me, do I teach critical thinking? Yes. Okay, so asking faculty to say, are you covering critical thinking? Okay, if you are, can we come to you and ask for you not to redesign your course, not to redesign an assessment, not to redesign an exam, but is there somewhere in the curriculum that we can pull from your course, right, a artifact, I think is the term used, to be able to use and assess for the general ed. And then I think the plan would be create something like we do with the experiential learning across campus, or where we get a group of faculty together to assess these rubrics. So we're gonna be coming back to you all in terms of saying, here's what we kind of do, here's kind of the plan we're thinking about, working with your department heads, working with your deans to try to put this in place, because we really have to get this done. We're not in the process of looking at reducing general ed hours at this time. We're not looking at reducing what the categories are that faculty created in the last general ed assessment, whether it's humanity category, all that study's in place. We just have to identify learning outcome, right? Where is it occurring in the curriculum? And then how are we going to get an artifact from that to be able to assess it? Is that, Eva, pretty much as the SACS coordinator, kind of where we are? So I'm learning at the same time everybody else is learning about this. I will say a little bit from a College of Business perspective, we do a lot of assessment in the College of Business for accreditation. So it's not, and the College of Business folks here, Dilip and Benny can speak to that. It's not, once the process is in place, it's not painful, right, in terms of collecting the data and assessing it. So bear with me on that. Longer term, I think the other general ed conversation is a conversation that will evolve over time. I also wanted to address, there's an email that went out, I don't know if you've seen it, about digital measures. Has everybody seen that? It came out today. And it had in there, it said, okay, this is all got to be done by January 2018. I asked for at the end of January, and the team of training said, I've asked for a timeline on that. Like, what's going on with digital measures? And why are we sending out this email to faculty saying there's 2 weeks left to get this completed? Because I don't know what the timeline is. So we're trying to kind of, communication coming out, we're going to try to do a better job.
Most of us trained in the fall. Most of us trained in the fall.
Right. But I want to just make sure that there's a timeline and everybody knows where it is and what was the timeline and what's the emails that have gone out and what's all the communication, so that people are all on the same page and aware of what's happening. Anything else I can answer for you all, or I'll answer as best I can. Yeah.
In the message that you sent to faculty, you mentioned quality matters.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could speak to that and tell her changes coming or
Right.
become of it.
Right. So we are looking at quality matters, and there are some changes that will come to that. We're in the process of re-looking at what is being required in terms of quality matters certification, the content equivalencies in terms of master courses, moving away from that requirement in terms of, right, the view that all content had to be 80% standardized across courses. It's not a requirement. Also looking at kind of 2 different types of certification processes. So one, can we internally certify these courses ourselves? And if faculty want to have an external certification, and then there is some cases I can imagine where a faculty member would say, I'd want to have it externally certified, having that as an option. Right, so looking at internal certifications, external certifications if faculty want it, and then the requirement in terms of standardizations across courses, we don't really need to do that. All we need to do is ensure that it's going to the learning outcomes, which you all agreed to on your programmatic level. So yes, that's forthcoming. Yeah, Jack.
What's the status of the committee that we had to look at general ed before and the work that came out of it?
Which committee?
It was a task force led by a consultant that was.
Oh, that committee is still ongoing. That's the current, yeah, I think that's the longer term conversation about general ed, right? So, yes.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Oh, you guys thanks.
Dan, being nice for the first.
Yeah, you're being nice for
All right, move on to curriculum. The proposals, the list of proposals, there were 17 listed, and the committee votes are on the agenda. However, proposal 18F-036, which is the history BA new concentration, after the curriculum committee voted on it, there was an issue found in it, and so it's been sent back to the history department. So that's going to be removed from our list. So if you could please cross that one out whenever as we move forward in voting today. That's not one of the proposals that we will be reviewing. So next, Charlene will be, who's the chair of the curriculum committee, is bringing forward these proposals. Count 22 is out of it. I can't count apparently.
There's 22.
I have 17 approvals in my inbox that I have to do.
I'm sorry, there's 22 on the list.
The motion is to approve the list except for 18F-036. And since it's a motion from a standing committee, we don't need a second, so we will be open for discussion. No one's going to ask it. I'll ask it. Were there any controversies related to any other proposals?
No.
Any questions at all? All right. So I'd like to call the question as long as no one objects. All right. We do need a hand count on this. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. 29-0-0, the motion passes. Charlene, do you have anything else to add?
So there are approximately 50 other proposals still lingering about. That is far behind where we wanted to be. If you happen to be a department head or a dean and you're sitting on proposals, please check the box, either approve or disapprove so they can move along. If you're on a college level curriculum committee, please meet and move your proposals along. We hope to have all 50 to you in February.
Thank you, Charlene. I'd like to invite Beth Crawford as the chair of the handbook committee. We have asked the handbook committee to look at bylaws changes that will be needed in relation to the handbook changes. And so the committee presents changes to the bylaws for approval. They shared a document with us that had all the changes in the document before and after. Again, since it's a motion from a standing committee, we don't need a second. So let's open it up for discussion to the bylaw recommendations. Yes, I can pull them up. I have it open. It's open.
Most of this is just cleanup.
And if anyone else was like me, when I looked at the committees, I was concerned we were losing a bunch of committees. They just got moved alphabetically to the bottom of the list. Once you read to the bottom of the document, you saw that. So
Yeah, the ones that got moved said the title and then undergraduate only. So we switched the order so that it was very clear that that was like an undergraduate curriculum and undergraduate competitions, so on and so forth. So since they're alphabetical, we had to drop them to the bottom. Any questions about what you've been presented with?
this is possibly going to be the fastest meeting on record.
I'm not hoping.
Okay. All right. So, well, for this though.
Yes, for this
okay.
one.
All right. So, since there is no more discussion, we'll go ahead and call the question unless anyone opposes. All right. So the motion is to approve the bylaw changes presented by the handbook committee. Let's go ahead and do a hand count. So all those in favor of the changes, please raise your hand. Hands down, thank you. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Motion passes 28-0-0, unless you're voting. I didn't think so. So it passes 2800. So you said you have something else?
Yes, one more little item of business. One of the things that we have tried very hard to do as a committee is to go through the old handbook, and there were things where we were like, okay, we're gonna move this to the bylaws, we're gonna move this to the bylaws. We think we've captured the majority of it, but we're not positive. What we would ask you to do is if there are any other pieces of the handbook that we removed last year and the new handbook that's coming forward, if you will email me, our president, our secretary, or anybody on the handbook committee, let us know that. We're meeting, we're working through these. Let us know what you found, what the concerns are, any other issues that you have with the bylaw, please send us those. There'll be one more set of handbook changes coming this year that we're aware of. The board is gonna make some changes. Our understanding is the board is gonna make some changes in March. Is that right, sir, the board meeting?
So I just talked to India about this yesterday. So yes, the board may make some changes in March, but when they do make those changes, they will put into them when our handbook needs to be updated.
Okay,
so we will know
so we may have to do
if
that.
it needs to be, or if we can wait another year before it needs to be updated again. They said they'll let us know.
So, but we know that that might be happening. So that could easily come to an April Senate meeting. So just want to kind of make everybody aware. And if so, it would just be bring us back into compliance again with full language as they make those changes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So old business. You may remember at our last meeting, we had a conversation about our peer list. I believe Claire had some questions about it. So I looked into that, and I have a file from the UT system that explains how the peer list was generated. So I'm going to email you guys that probably tomorrow morning, because usually when I get out of here, I'm doing the video things. So I'll email you guys that process. Keep in mind that that document was generated in the middle of the summer. So it was explaining how the process was going to happen. They didn't update it once the final list was out or anything. And I'm going to email to you, and I'll probably post it on the Faculty Senate website. That'll be easiest, and that way other people can access it, but I will email you and let you know it's there so everyone knows. Please review it, and if you have questions, email them to me. I will be happy to answer what I can, and if I can't, we will forward them to system. And if we have more complicated questions, they said that they would be willing to come down and check with us. But I think we should edge into the process first and let you guys read through the document on how that peer list was generated. So, does anybody have any questions? All right, I have a reminder on my calendar to do it at 8 in the morning tomorrow, so we'll see how good that I do that. So I don't think we have any more old business. Does anyone? Okay, so moving on to new business. I wanted to make sure that we discussed elections, which seems like such a long way off, but in fact, it's time for us to start thinking about the president-elect. For the Faculty Senate, I'm sure that Steve is ready to give up his title as president-elect. So the deadline in the old bylaws to request nomination was February 1st. Can we now use February 15th? No.
Oh, yeah, it's bylaws.
Yes, it's bylaws.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the deadline for us to request, and that is meaning for us to make the call, and the call comes from the secretary. So before February 15th, we will send an email to campus faculty asking for nominations. So look for that to come from Birch. It will come before then. I think we'll probably do it probably at the end of the month. Because there's a lot of other things that go along with that. People's schedule, release time, all kinds of things. And also if someone wanted to be a senator. So there's all kinds of things that go along with that. So what I would ask is that you start having conversations with your colleagues or amongst the Senate on people who might be interested in serving as president. As of now, no one has contacted me to ask what it's like to be president. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I've had a couple coffees with Steve already this year, but it would probably be a good idea too. Get sure is you also might want to talk to Joni Toprak, Deborah McAllister, who has served. I think he served for 2 years, right? And Susan Davidson, who also served for 2 years. Gavin Townsend, he served for 2 years. At least in my recent memory, maybe before I got here, you might have served earlier. Someone else in the room who served as president? So now the term is a little different from when they served you 1 year as president-elect, 1 year as president, 1 year as past president. So it's actually a 3-year commitment. And I will tell you that as president, you do need to attend a lot of meetings. A lot of meetings. Pretty much every other week I got an email that I was on a new committee, so just let you know that.
That's quite an glowing endorsement there.
Well, you know, I will say I've learned a lot. It's a lot of good information. So I would encourage you, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I don't drink coffee, but I'll get a tea at Starbucks with you if you want to meet me and talk about it. Okay, so that's the president-elect. It's also time for us to do at-large and divisional elections. The at-large elections are handled by the secretary and the president-elect, and that will be also a call for nominations. And I believe the deadline for that is March 1st, which is why I'd like to move forward with the president-elect ones a little quicker so that we don't run into each other there. The divisional nominations and elections are run by each division. And previously, the wording in the bylaw said the senator with the most tenure, which is really confusing considering we earn tenure. It's just confusing all around. So we have changed the wording that now each division, all those senators in that division are responsible for the elections. Meaning you need to get together, everybody from the College of Business who's serving needs to get together and say, how are we gonna run these elections? What are we gonna do? You have to do nominations, you have to allow for people to vote. But it's your responsibility, and Steve just sent an email out to all the senators. I believe it went today, right? Yep. So you have until January 31st to decide how you're going to do the process and get back to Steve, just so he knows. So basically you're making yourself a little small committee of your members, of your divisional members, no matter if you're rolling off or if you're staying on. Everyone is participating in figuring out how the elections are going to proceed. And hopefully that process in your area will become kind of standard. This is the first year that we're doing it, but hopefully it will fix the issues that we've had in the past. One thing I do want to say that Steve had mentioned in his email is that you can run the elections through the full faculty because every faculty member has been put into the divisions. So you can run them. There's a private groups for your divisions. So you can email everybody in your divisions to get nominations. We've tried to facilitate the process as easy as possible. The one issue you might have is you might not be able to make the actual survey because you're not a leader. Steve and Birch can help you with that. And we'll follow up again in February because these are not going to happen until around sometime in March. So I just need you to start thinking about the process because we all know what March and April are like. Okay, not as crazy as now. Now it's crazy, but it's even more crazy then. So, all right. So does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Gretchen, I was looking at the where it says future Senate meetings. And
I'm talking about elections.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, can you
I'll come back later. Come back to me later.
Okay. All right.
Do you want the at-large senators to participate in running the divisional elections?
It doesn't say it in the bylaws.
It doesn't say it in the bylaws. I will say that if you have some experience, you might be able to help, but I don't think it's your responsibility. Because as an at-large senator, you're representing all of the faculty. Other questions? I will say you get the emails, I think, because Steve sent them out to the entire Senate. No other election questions? Okay, faculty concerns. I think this is you, Felicia.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
On the second page at the bottom where it says future Senate meetings.
Yes, ma'am.
Like it says February 15th, and the next one should be March 15th, but it says here March 8th.
That's spring break. So trying to get everyone here for spring break is a little difficult. So I tried to push it afterwards. However, if this room is not available, there is not a single room available in the building. There's some kind of conference going on. So I had to settle with March 8th, which is the Thursday before spring break.
Thank you.
Other, well, this is faculty concerns. So any other, yes?
My concerns in terms of what you saw about spring break.
University spring break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we do anything to coordinate our schedule when our spring break is to be when normal like public school systems in spring break?
My general answer to that is I've been here 16 years and we've never done that, but we don't pick our spring break. I believe the system does. Maybe not. I'm going to defer to the chancellor on how the spring break is selected.
You know, we've tried to align with Chat State and with Hamilton County Schools. Hamilton County schedules their spring break so late because they're now looking and they actually vote as a faculty on when to have some of these things. So we, at one point when I first came, we were trying to look at some alignment because there are people with kids that, you mentioned that the county's off today. There's people dealing with childcare issues. Spring break is one. We are going to try to do something with Chat State, but Hamilton County, until they figure things out with a new superintendent, unless they adopt a different system, isn't going to work. Because we schedule it 4 years out. And we do work with the system, but I think we have some input. Yes.
So I misspoke on that. So. What I will say is that just from, I have a little bit secondhand experience. I have a friend who teaches at Kennesaw State, and they do, and their spring break last year was like the 3rd or 4th week in April. So just to let you know, like if you try to coordinate with the local schools, it doesn't always work for us. Because ours is really around midterm. Theirs was basically 2 weeks before the end of classes. So. Other faculty concerns or questions? Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sure.
I've got two. One has to do with accessibility of buildings to handicapped people. We say that our buildings are accessible, and yet there have been 2 times within the last few weeks of school that the only elevator in 2 different buildings was out. And you see people on crutches crawling up the stairs on their butts. And I don't know what you would do if you were in a wheelchair and paralyzed. So if we only have one option, you know, to get, if we have things scheduled on high floors and we only have one option for accessible for handicapped people to get there, is that really accessible? Because there have been recent cases in more than one building where it was not. And the other isn't exactly a faculty concern, I guess, but I think a lot of us were sort of surprised and taken aback when the previous provost retired so suddenly, and I just wondered if he was going to come back and let us do something in his honor, or there were times we disagreed with him, but he worked really hard and he was very professional, and I feel like we should do something. So is there something in the works, or?
You know, we had talked about it, and he was going to have lunch, I think, this week with Robert, if the weather is not. The way it worked out in terms of tax advantages and things with the end of the year coming up, things happened extremely quickly. And a lot of people were already gone for Christmas break when that decision was made by Dr. Ainsworth. So that's a good point, which we will revisit with him.
Well, tell him that some of us at least think that we should do something to show our appreciation.
Okay. We'll do that.
Thank you, Fred.
Carl, let me address the ADA issue. If elevators are out, it's extremely important that you let us know. And if you don't think we're responding quickly enough, call me, let me know. That's critical to us that we provide that kind of access to our buildings. So just let us know. We can't help the elevators break down. We have preventative maintenance plans and checks on those. Oftentimes they break in high-use buildings. If they're out, let us know. We'll expedite the repair.
Richard, would it be possible?
Maybe for the future, we should be thinking about, could we provide additional options somehow? And especially in the older buildings, should there be some kind of contingency?
Just let us know, and we'll work with our risk managers to work on that, even from having some escorted access, whatever we can do. We'll try to work it out.
Well, I'm sitting here with a brace on my knee because I had to take the stairs in the engineering building. My knees just can't take it.
Certainly one elevator.
No,
There's a freight elevator, but people don't really have access to that. I mean, there are 2 elevators across the hall from each other, but there was a time last week when they were both out.
Well, so in the engineering building, we have 3 elevators. 2 of them were out, not including the freight elevator, because we had a water breakdown. So it's one time that has happened.
Right, but I mean, it's more than one, you know, it's happened in more than one building, and, you know, it's just, I think toward the future, we need to think about making things truly accessible.
But also let us know as well, because as far as I know, that there was at least one elevator working.
Right, I think a lot of students don't know that freight elevator exists. So, I mean, if they had, like, put up instructions that says these elevators are not working, but in this emergency, if you have mobility issues, you can use the freight elevator, and here's where it is, and so forth. I think that would help.
Isn't there an elevator around the corner at the other end of the building?
But I was talking about the other two elevators that they were working. One of the people.
Can I make just a recommendation, if it's possible to think about for facilities in the future? Students don't know who to call, and I wondered if the elevators could have a sign on them, if not working, call, and there'd be a phone number to call.
Generally, we put those up most of the time as training. Yeah, but that's no reason not to keep them on. So what we'll do is probably put a permanent tag with the facilities number.
Terry?
I just wanted to say on the ones that were not working towards the end of the semester, students contacted me immediately, and I contacted facilities, so we were like on those as fast as we could get there. So people did call. Students did.
Any other faculty concerns? Okay, I had two announcements. One is that we will have a full faculty meeting on Monday, February 26th at 3:30 p.m. in the UC auditorium. And there will be refreshments available at 3 p.m. and I've ordered more. So we usually run out, so we won't run out. There should be plenty, so please come early and converse with your fellow faculty. And I have procured the date. I heard the faculty awards dinner, so you can put it on your calendar. It is Tuesday, April 10th at 6 p.m. at Stratton Hall, which is where we've been having it the last couple of years. So please get that on your calendar and also share with your colleagues. I will be sending an email out to all the faculty soon. I try to keep that to a minimum, so I want to bring all my information together before I send it all the faculty an email. So the next meeting of the Senate is February 15th, so 2018, and it's also in here. Does anybody have any other announcements?
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't get this to you earlier, but on the 30th, January the 30th, we will have our annual Blue and Gold Memorial service. That's usually been held in April. I think it was a day before final starring, and that seemed to be a really difficult time for people to come to honor those who have passed in this last year. So at that event, we recognize faculty, staff, alumni, and students who have passed this past year. So that will be in Patton Chapel on the 30th at 5:30. It's a very short service, 5:30. It's usually over within 30 minutes. So if you can come, it's a very nice summer service.
Any other announcements? Okay, we still have coffee and brownies and cookies, so please take with you what you can. So anybody move for adjournment? So I want for Mike, I'll take the second from over here. Claire, the second, okay. Anybody object? All right, then we are adjourned. We'll see you next month. Thank you for coming.